It's a country bag in the back. It's wide. This one you just way back. Hey, welcome. I still don't know why Instagram won't let me do that. I'm trying to look into that. Shadow ban. Shadow ban on IG, but we still out here on other platforms. Welcome if you're listening on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify if you're listening later. But thank you, everybody. Welcome to the Above Average Platform.
Yeah, welcome to another episode of Above Average Black Men. You're truly Chris Penn Sr.
Chris Jr., as always, here to empower, inspire, and uplift the community.
Devin Pender, here to remind you to like, follow, subscribe, share, and comment.
Yes.
Sorry we couldn't go live on Instagram. I mean,
don't know what it is. It's been like the past couple of weeks. But
we've been bad.
No, I'm just kidding. For anywhere else where you're listening, if you're live, drop the comments during the show. We will try our best to read out as many, if not all of them.
Yeah, and tonight is kind of like one of my favorite topics.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about, because I think it's important. We're going to talk about like my generation, your generation, the current generation.
I feel like that's always a historical debate. You know, it's always like the older generation versus the younger generation. And I think it's interesting of a debate or conversation to have because I'm like transitioning.
I'm like in between. And I don't think it's a debate. What I want to talk about is like, I think if we talk about your generation, my generation, we kind of figure out how we got here. You know what I mean? How we got here with this generation where so many of I've been having this conversation a lot lately. So many of our black boys are just angry. They're just angry. They don't play sports. Like it seems like each generation of sports like almost disappeared. You know, they don't play basketball, pickup games, football and stuff. They just don't. You know, it's not as what they used to. It's just different now. So and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying you see the difference. Even in our culture, it seems like education is less value now than it was before. You know, so it's a lot of changes, and I'm not here to say what's good or bad. I just think it's important for your point, from a historical, point of view, is what's happening in different generations, man. And, why we don't know, but I mean, I think it's a healthy dialogue about
it. It is. In my mind, I'm thinking about so many different things because I'm like just thinking of like trying to look at it in a historical timeline, in terms of like where we are and where we have come from. And I almost feel like it's a bit of a decline in a sense, in some ways, like we have access to so much more. And I think sometimes like our generation like overcompensated for a lot of different things that they say that they didn't like or thought was quote unquote abuse. And then now it's like we've just gone completely the other way, where it's like we've kind of leaned into this idea of like not holding people accountable. Like just a real soft life that I feel like now we seeing that, because when you have kind of soft times like this, unfortunately, like they're not built for those tough times that come along, and then you got people who lash out, like you said, like boys who just kind of not prepared or equipped to handle themselves at the least bit of any type of kind of things that don't go their way.
I mean, it's one thing that drew this conversation was because we do our podcast on Tuesday called the Schoolyard, and we talk about the things we learned in the schoolyard and how that prepared us for where we are now versus people we knew who probably had similar talent, similar skill set, but didn't have the fight. They go, didn't have that dog in them, didn't have a competitive thing, that I don't care who's on the other side. Whether it's corporate America or whatever. Like most of us in either are or were in leadership roles in our jobs. And we were talking about how tough it was in the schoolyard. You can make it there. And I think to your point, that's the word I've been using a lot, is accountability. There's no accountability. I deal with some of these little. I think we're in trouble because a lot of these black boys, man, there's no accountability because you're in school. They can pretty much do whatever, and there's not a whole lot of consequences. They got to be terrible, minus 10 times terrible to fail. You know what I mean? So you're going to get promoted. So, there is no accountability. And then if you have a parent who is not engaged or, really, into it or for whatever reason, Like for instance, this little boy I work with. I'm not gonna say his name, and he boxes. And he's supposed to be good. I don't know if he's really good or not, but everybody believes it, and so nobody messes with him. Like he'll smack somebody, they don't do anything, and he has anger problem, and he also, what I noticed now, because I'm around him and there's about 9 of the boys in a particular program, their sense of right and wrong is jacked up. When you explain it to them, the light comes on, you can see it on their face, but they don't get the sense of right because they never had to deal with consequences.
And
they never had to deal with consequences. So they don't understand there's a repercussion for what you do.
Even another thing too, to take it another step further, in terms of that idea of just kind of explaining things. I don't think that happens or occurs, and has certainly declined. And not just saying like with it's honestly from the top down. I've seen it kind of happening across like management or like at lower levels. The ideas of like trying to train people. People don't know how to train people. People don't know how to interact.
You can't give what you don't know,
but they try. They give out garbage.
You raise out garbage. You raise an interesting point. But then I see with parents, even when they do chastise or punish the kid, there's no explanation. Yeah. There's nothing to correct what they did. You punish them for it, but you don't say, "Yo, this is what you need to do. This is how we're going to do it." So
why was this wrong? Yeah. Now the only thing that I got out of this is like, oh, when you don't like something, I can get mad. So or this is in trouble, or like
to the kid. One kid is he throwing sticks at cars. So I go out there and I'm talking to him, same kid. So I got to say, dude, what you doing? He says, well, I was throwing sticks over the everyone trying to hit the car. I said, okay, you from this neighborhood? What typically happens like that? He says, I don't know what you mean. I said, because you're lucky the guy that look in the schoolyard, see all these kids and see a couple of adults standing and just start shooting. He says, I never thought about that. But and this is what I'm saying. Once you say it to them, the light bulb comes on, but they sense of they don't. And there's another kid I'm talking to. He's 7 years old. We having a conversation. He's sitting here. If Devin walks past, he's going walking with Devin. If you run past, he's got running with you. If another kid comes doing cartwheels, he does cartwheels. So I'm talking to him like, what you doing? You're a smart kid. You got, come on, you can be somebody. Tell me, but I'm a follower. 7 years old. So when his mom come up, I'm talking to his mom. He says, "I'm gonna black his eye." That was her response. So I'm saying this. Then I had a parent tell me the same kid throwing sticks.
Strange.
I had the same kid throwing sticks.
I can't even comprehend it.
The same kid throwing sticks. I'm talking to his mom, and I'm trying to explain to his mom he's not a bad kid because he don't cuss. He don't cuss adults out. He don't give you a hard time. He just makes bad decisions. You know what she told me? I'm gonna take him home. I'm gonna kick his egg, and we made a decision. My husband and I, we're done with him.
What does that even mean?
We don't care anymore. So he gets in trouble in school. Well, he gets in trouble in school the next day, and somebody calls me and says he got in trouble. His mom didn't come, so he just walked around the hallways in the school. The school let him do it. So I show up in that school program.
Wow. We're done with him is nuts.
I'm just telling you. So this is the stuff you see that but it's
that makes sense.
But that's what I mean. Generation, it seems like it's so easy now for people. Just when I was working at the youth emergency shelter, same thing. You can drop your kid off. You can say, "Hey, I'm tired of my kid. Drop my kid off." Now it almost seems like there's no shame in giving up on your kid. It's like it happens so much.
Yeah, I think it probably does happen a little bit more often than we like to acknowledge and say. And it's not even sometimes the giving up your child physically, it's just giving up on your child. Like they literally can come home and you giving them just kind of care. Yeah, you don't care what they do. You just almost waiting for your child to be 18.
Let me tell you something. If my mom came up to school just like some of these moms, I would run away from home.
Well,
I would run away. Man, they shook.
That is another
generation.
They
come up here with
modesty.
They pregnant. They got a sports bra.
Modesty.
Pregnant got a sports bra. They got bonnets are the thing now.
How dare you?
Bonnets are the thing now.
How dare you talk about how I look?
The big bonnets they have on. They got on fuzzy slippers, which I didn't even make anymore. And you got your pajamas on. This is 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and you
how
come
dare
up.
You take your eyes.
So it's like we don't even
observations.
But how do you tell your kid to care about as a parent? And that's how you show them. And this generation is different because in my generation, nobody was coming out the house looking like that.
No,
it just wasn't going to happen.
Monique got in trouble for saying that a little while ago.
Yeah, no, I didn't hear the exchange, but I heard about it.
But like that's the whole premise and idea of it is people try to ignore this this sense of like how you present yourself matters. And like I don't know when it happened, but maybe when the pants sagging era came, you know, I was probably part of that.
Man.
But that idea of like your appearance matters. Like back in the day, you look at pictures from like the 50s, 60s, black people dressed in suits. Like you wouldn't even tell how old certain people was. You'd be like, man, he's 19. Like, I thought he was 30. Like, but he full 3-piece suit on, just fresh. They was living different. They carried themselves different. And then now it's just like you can't tell who is who when you see how some people dress.
And for me, I never realized. Well, one, I'm at one place now until we hire somebody else. So I'm there every day. So it's different when you see people every day versus you kind of come one day a week. So you get to see, you know, the holistic of who the person is. But another thing is because I'm talking to these guys every week and we talking about how we grew up, it's like magnified. And then I think about how y'all raised. And it's like, it's not even close. I'm thinking to myself like, man, you know, what happened to it's supposed to be better for each generation. That's like gone. That's thought is long gone.
Nobody cares about that anymore. It's just the idea of me and now.
And your mom and I was having a discussion, and I said, I believe 85% of the people in this country are selfish. She said the number's higher. And now I'm starting to hit them. I'm like, yo, this number maybe goes to like 95. Because even parents with their kids, like how do you just, first of all, I would, even if I thought that, I would never say that while you standing right there. You standing right there, literally, mom and I like this, he's standing with Devin, and you say that in front of him. So he reached out and shook my hand. I could tell the way he shook my hand was like, yo, you know, like, and then every time he sees me, but how do you think that fixes his behavior? Now, I'm really going to act like an idiot. You know, and I got other kids, man. I got some of these kids get, you know, balling up their fist, man, jaw, you know, just tight over silly stuff, man. I mean, and I'm saying to myself, like, yo, you don't understand. I'm talking to a kid that's brilliant. I got a kid that's brilliant.
So learn behavior.
This kid is brilliant. I mean, this kid literally, he's like 7 years old, maybe 8. He can read at an adult level, man. He writes his own books and stuff. You know, I give him line paper and stuff. He writes stuff, you know, and he is legible. You understand. He's using great words. He got to remind me of Kinsey. You know, but he has anger problems and he's rude. You know, anytime something happens, he's stomping his feet and balling. So I'm talking to him like that. I said, let me tell you something, man. You're brilliant. You're brilliant. You got a chance for anything you want to be. But that anger is going to slow you down. You know, I'm not brilliant. I said, dude, you ace all your tests. You didn't even try. You sitting over there, everybody's reading books talking about, you know, they don't have enough pictures. You over there reading novels. You know, everybody is writing, scribbling. You writing, you know, with the line paper, you writing whole books and they make sense. You know, man. You know, I'm not smart. Where's that? You know,
not even worried.
But see,
that environment.
But the problem with it is you got a generation who they don't aspire. So the generation behind them, you know, they not aspiring anything. They just, you know, hey, they just kind of going through life. You know, I have so many examples because I'm in this building every day. I'm not gonna say what it is. And the sad part about it is, this school is the worst run school I've ever seen in my life. I'm not getting to it over here watching, but it seems like nobody cares. It's like, you know, it seems like who cares about these kids? I'm thinking to myself like, you know, and then they don't have enough resources. So you got kids who should have a one-on-one, who doesn't have a one-on-one, you know, and it seems like there's no rush to get it to them, and they're passing. So, you know, how are you going to function? You know, like I was talking to another kid, you know, he's like in the 5th grade, we're having a conversation, and he's a pretty intelligent kid. What you going to do? I'm going to get a job. I'm going to get a good job, making some money. It's okay. You can't write in cursive, so you can't sign a contract. You know, I said, you know, you struggle with the way, but you can't do that for every time.
No, that's what they say.
I said, you know, you struggle with putting your words together. So you can't use AI because AI, you got to get it right and use your words. You know, I said, you know, you don't have any problem solving skills. So when AI start messing up, you don't know how to keep talking and keep asking the right questions. What you gonna do? You know, and nobody talks to these kids about that. So these kids, they going through life thinking life is a free pass, no accountability. You know, I'm just gonna keep until you get to high school, and now all of a sudden, you know, you get D's and F's, and you know, I got a kid breaking up crying because he couldn't do the math. You know, and you know, he's trying to be a student now, and he couldn't do the math.
I seen
no, he couldn't even start.
No, I seen videos online where it's like grown people that can't count their change. Like they ask for like change for 50, change for 20. They can't count the money. Like,
man, you ever been in the store?
They had to have the money back. And
you ever been in the store and they came to $9.25 and you give them $10 in the quarter and they struggle with figure out how to changes?
That happens too all the time.
and where I think the generations failed at was even in your time, you had teachers who looked out for you. All now our teachers, but you had teachers who like, yeah, Weinstein, all that, who kind of looked out for you did. You had Ken, when you had coaches who looked out for you. A lot that's missing now because somebody was interviewing me today, and I said the same thing. They told me, "What about team sports? Team sports about winning now." We were laughing because
team sports about winning now.
Yeah, it's about winning now. They don't care. They not trying to build men. They trying to win.
Okay.
Yeah, they ain't trying to build no character. But they ain't trying to build character. They ain't trying to build men. Even the pros, those days of coaches talking to people and trying to build them into better men. Nah, you win for me. But but that's part of the problem because who's teaching these kids, man? They think sports is the real world. And so you see this, and it's intensifying, man. When you talk to these kids, they don't get the correlation because you said earlier, you can't not hold somebody accountable, and then they become a grown man. Now you think you're holding them accountable. It doesn't work like that.
You want to know, like, I think capitalism ultimately has killed and bled its way into everything, and to the point where it has made everything soulless. Like even with the idea you're talking about sports and thinking about little leagues, and you want to know why? Because it's money and dollars. These kids are getting money and NIL deals and like it's the tournaments. Adidas and Nike sponsoring teams. Yeah. You see videos of kids that are in the 6th, 7th, 4th grade
Best
almost.
8th grader in the world.
Best 8th grader in the world. Never see these guys again. But it's a money market.
But that's the difference in generations too, because my generation, we played for the love of the game.
Right. It was some passion.
We never, and we talk about it. We played for the love of the game. We just love the game. We never thought about let's do this. We just played, and we played hard.
And maybe think about Michael Jordan. Yeah. I think I seen a clip of this. He was like on Oprah kind of years ago and kind of was talking about that idea, just like when it gets to making too much money, some of these guys not going to care anymore.
And that's what
we are here.
I'm not trying to win a chip. I'm just trying to get paid.
It's like, or like just that idea of like continuously getting better and progressing the game. It's just like they just want to do just enough to get there, get that money, and they okay with that. Like
but I think that's the thing that's shifted. That's not good with generation. That winning was a healthy attitude, and I think because we it's funny because this is the perfect example. We were laughing because when we grew up, the guy that didn't make the team, he was the manager or trainer. He ain't nobody. He passed out towels and water bottles, but you felt bad you put him with the team. Now they don't even do that. You out of here, beat his fam. So back in the coach was, or now we got the participation trophy. Which is becoming more and more prevalent. Everybody, and people going back and forth arguing about it. But how do you teach a kid to compete to win? But how do you teach a kid to compete to win if no matter what happens, this is what the outcome is going to be?
You're here. You get something.
You get the same thing as you 12 and no, he 0 and 12. You came to every practice. They didn't come to any practice. So how do you help a kid process that?
It's a different size trophy.
So I just think. Those are the things, and I'm gonna say this, and Christians get upset when I say this. I think we did this to our kids. I think it's crazy because when we stopped telling kids there was no Santa Claus, there was no Easter Bunny, there were no kids don't have an imagination now.
Yeah,
they little now. They talking about sex now. They talking about sex at 7, 8, 9 years old, man. They talking about Fortnite. Because it helped us dream. It helped us imagine stuff. It helped us think of something else. Yeah,
kids. Have to be they're a lot more mature and in tune and tapped into things. Yeah. They probably should have
no idea. They should not.
Nope. And they don't have a chance to really be a kid.
Nope.
Like you said, like
take it away from them.
The imagination part. Like, man, I remember like just the idea of like thinking there was a Santa Claus and I remember, like, oh, you coming down.
And I hear parents now. Make sure you good. Yeah, and I hear parents now. They didn't know who paid for it. If your kid turned 14 years old and he don't realize that you bought that stuff for him, your problem is bigger than him thinking about Santa Claus. That's the problem right there. Yeah.
It's like you're bringing joy to your child and creating and allowing them to teaching a dream and allowing them to find some joy in life.
Yeah.
That's really what it's about. And you giving them these adult problems.
And let him have his moment. Yeah. Let her have her moment. Because it was the same thing. My dad did the same thing. He would open up the skylight upstairs, man, make us think Santa Claus came down. We would make cookies and he would eat the cookies. Bite the cookies. We did that. We did that, and we grew up and we all turned out okay. We talked about on the call. We all grew up with that. We didn't turn out to be crazies, and it didn't. It
Believe
taught
in
us,
certain things,
but it
and
taught us to
don't do
dream.
certain
It taught
things.
us to see past today.
Mhm.
It taught us to say that even though I'm here right now, this is not where I gotta stay because
Right.
there's things out there I can do. I can be. It wasn't we won't be before after we won't be nothing. No, we had a healthy balance, man. And the other thing we talked about was because we had the competitive thing, and I watched you with your friends and you with your friends. Even though we competed, we were still friends.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't now they shoot each other, smacking each other, man. And we had that relationship, but we all wanted to win. We wanted to win, man. And I think that healthy sense of competition, propels you into having a successful life or
Right.
anything else you do.
I think it's in that idea of sense of competition. It's nothing wrong with. I would say in our group, we all feel like this, thinking that you are the best, and like pushing yourself to be the best. I think having people around you that all feel like that personally about themselves, and we all have each other like this admiration and support for each other, but it allows for us to kind of elevate and push each other. It isn't a lot of that now.
They
Because
trouble each other now.
yeah,
Man.
it's
I'm
a lot
mad
more
at you, you suck. They go,
right. It's a lot more
yeah.
sensitivity and like not understanding that iron sharpens iron.
I never forget, and I'll go backwards. I never say having conversations with Aaron if I ran into my keys, and they would say how proud he was. You were playing basketball in college. It was never a hate thing. It was never, and we were the same way. We rooted for each other. Yeah, we wanted to make it, but we always rooted for each other. It was never, and now it's different though. Now, man, if I ain't making it, I'm talking about you like a dog, man. It's like,
You can't make it either.
yeah, it's different. And there's almost, and I mean, generations have changed in that sense, man. There's no more sense of family. When I grew up, it wasn't really a village. Different. We never went anywhere. My father was taking somebody with our family. We did. It was truly a village. Now,
It's a little bit of a sick
the
world out
person
here,
the person right next to you could be starving, man. And Black in America. I never when that thing was on. Soon as that, whatever
It's a
they
different world.
I was watching that Black in America, the series that came on, and I turned it off because it was a part in there that really disturbed me. They in this church, right? They sit in this church, and there's a rich family on this side, and there's a poor family on the other side. So the rich family said, well, all the money they got, they paying cash for the kid to go to college and all this stuff. You got the finest stuff. And the poor side can barely pay the rent. And they sitting across from each other. What's wrong with that picture? They sitting across from each other and they live in two different lives, man. And so even in church, people not helping each other like they used to. And I'm not saying all churches are before I get text messages, but it's just crazy how generations have changed because back in the day, you helped a family like that. You weren't trying to make them rich, but you gave them food, you did different things for them. Now it's like somebody will be starving next to you. Who cares?
I mean, I think at this point we all need help. Honestly, that's another thing that's different.
Yeah, but that's someone. There's someone who need assistance, and there's someone who need help. There's a difference. There's a difference.
I think
There's people out there with no money, no
some
income.
trying times out here.
Yeah.
The cost of everything going up except for the dollars that we make.
Yeah, but your trying times don't compare to somebody who don't have a house, homeless right now.
It's different. True,
it's
very
different.
true. But
So
it's
what-
like I think it's the idea of people trying to hold on and make the most of what they got to make it stretch.
No,
Days ahead.
okay, but you can't be blessed without blessing somebody else. You can't, you can't expect people to help you. You don't want to help other people. This is the way it works. I mean, it's reaping and sowing. I say it all the time.
Or for those who can, I would say can do.
But I'm not saying get somebody $100. But there's people who can slip somebody $5. If you can't, you ain't got to talk about it. You ain't got to. Oh, when people raise, they always begging for money. You ain't got to go through all that. You can't do. It's like when I do Toy Story every year. There's no doubt that I always get into a conversation because there's some people who know how you know they need it. Or you should do this, you should do that, you should do this. I'm not doing all that. If somebody comes, they don't need it and they get it. So what? That's my job is not to sit there and scrutinize everybody to come up there. I'm doing it because I'm led to do something for people. So I think we, in that sense, is gone because everybody's suspicious now. Everybody's suspicious of everybody now.
I mean,
everybody's suspicious.
People don't want to get scared.
The world is like that now.
Because unfortunately, there's people out there that do lie and say and do act like they are on the verge of needing help.
And that it almost seems like that's at an all-time high, like
it is.
Scamming.
It is. I'm not. But do you let that deter you from doing the right thing, from doing good?
Unfortunately, for some.
I know. I'm not. I'm talking about. I get. And there's some people, but also remember where I come from. I remember.
I still do.
When I'm in that school, I remember growing up in North Philly. I remember that I was blessed with a mom and dad. We weren't rich, but we weren't very poor. I remember the obstacles and the challenges I had. I remember people, even to this day, when they find out where I was raised at, it gets interesting. What I mean? They look at you a certain way, or you not like them. You don't know about somebody's neighborhood, but it's kind of ironic. They still throw shit at you. Racism is at all time high. There's still people who think they're smarter than you just because their skin color is different. So I remember all that. So I would never do that to somebody else. But we do it to each other. We do it to each other. No matter what, you can go name all kind of stuff, man. We do it to each other. Like there's a guy on Facebook, and I don't know what he is, but he's armed with all these guns, and he wants ICE to come to Philadelphia because they're gonna get all of those. You don't understand. They're gonna arrest you too. They ain't gonna let you walk around with all that stuff. You missing the whole big picture here. You think because you some faked up security officer, and you're not thinking about they can grab your cousin, they can grab your uncle, so we don't think like that. We just think about me, and even in our culture and our race, we've become that.
I think people are definitely looking at things as a one instance or a runoff, and I think that's probably happened in so many ways, too many times, where we're at this point in history where, like not too long ago with COVID and everything, we all locked in the house. They got tanks going down the street, and no really bells or alarms went off there. Or we protest, they kind of pushing back on us, protesting peacefully in certain places and try to portray that we're being violent, just so they could put a presence in there and military presence in the streets.
Yeah.
And now they're doing that all over the country in different cities and just saying like, hey, we had to, this place is just so wild. We gotta get in there.
Would you say this is probably the most disconnected generation?
What do you mean by that?
They're not connected to politics. They're not connected to current events. Like Trump says to the military yesterday, he wants to put them in these bad neighborhoods because he wants them to practice their violence and things of that nature. Yeah, and nobody's saying anything.
I wouldn't say they were misguided. I would say
I didn't say misguided. I said you think they're disconnected because some people just don't pay attention to what it's not gonna happen to me. I'm just gonna worry about my house. That's just not a concern of mine.
I think we're probably less critical thinkers and overly emotional. And you kind of said this before about the idea of people making decisions off of one or two things that they feel emotionally attached to versus looking
you can be all those things and still be disconnected. You can be all those things and not be tuned into what's happening.
I'm just saying, I don't think that's the problem. I think people are tuned into what's going on, but I just don't think that we are we talk about the wrong things.
I encounter so many people who are not tuned in, who don't, because their ideas ain't happening to me. If you talk about somebody who could afford, we were blessed to be able to move you guys out here to go. So when I talk to people who've done that, they talk smack. They're not even paying attention. I knew that was going on. You see it all the time. But when you talk to people who couldn't afford it, it's a whole different story. Everybody can't afford to move. It's not that they don't value education. Everybody can't afford to move their kids to the suburbs. So when I mean disconnected, we unplug because it's not impacting us directly. And it's not, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying I found myself, and maybe I shouldn't say generation, because people my age too, who kind of think they made it.
But I don't think. I don't agree. I don't think it's the idea they don't think it's impacting them directly. I think it's this is important to me. This one thing.
Oh no, they say it. They say
rights is important to me.
They,
so I'm on
no,
to
they
that.
say it. No, they say it.
I'm telling you from I guess the perspective of my circle and generation of people. They be just so emotionally attached to guns. That's my thing. I'm right.
But you can still be disconnected. But you can still be disconnected. You can still be disconnected from something that have all those things. And I don't even think people do it purposely. I'm not saying people do it purposely. I'm just saying there's some people who just don't. They just not plugged into what's going on, or they hear one issue and they stop with that issue. They're not paying attention to everything else that's going on. It's a group of Republicans now, and they apologizing to people. Somebody sent me a clip because they voted for Trump, and they said the same thing. They were blinded by two things. He was going to make them rich, and he did pro-life message. And they were blinded by it. Now none of those things are happening. Now they're starting to hear the other stuff he's saying because they unplugged once they heard those two things.
Yeah, nowadays, the way the algorithm is set up, that's all you're going to see.
Yeah,
and then you just get that info.
At least he was able to see, the other side.
But how many people understand what you just said? Because I think there's a lot of people who don't understand.
I have a friend like that where it became very draining, and I don't even like to really talk about politics like that. But even I was like, you got to see some of the stuff this guy's doing, and it became very draining immediately. So I completely understand that.
I don't have a conversation. I refuse to have those conversations because it's like when I talk to people and or they ask me a question about Charlie Kirk, and they start talking about what a great guy he is, and so my comeback is, this is the same dude that calls you an N-word, that said women is not as smart. Tell me where that comes in at. Oh, but he was able to bring people together. How? So at that point, I don't have a conversation anymore, because people like that, if you okay with him talking about you like that and talking about females or whatever, how you not gonna win that person? So it is draining. So I just let it go. And there's a lot of people who look like us who just stay with Trump. They don't understand he's building prisons. He ain't building them just for the immigrants. He's building them for us. And we don't get that. The school to prison pipeline.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I think sometimes almost part of the problem. Nobody wants to talk to or can talk to each other no more. It's just like everybody feels like they don't have the time. Like if you don't agree with what I agree with, it's like, all right, we can't.
But it's like Devin said, it's not that you have to agree with me. Give me a logical response.
No.
Give me a logic. Like Devin said, at some point you realize that this person just ain't gonna change their mind. No matter how insincere what they heard or how dumb it is, they just not gonna change their mind. They'll repeat the same thing.
When you get down to it, it's just all about you want to see the other side of it.
Yeah. But that's politics right now. That's politics right now. That's what I was about to say. That's politics right now. And you just described politics 101.
It's been okay. I think for years, it's the idea like people being able to disagree, and it's been a respect between people on like if you do disagree. But like now, it's like the idea like that's my enemy.
But I also think it's a generational thing, because it got worse for each generation. It was to a point where you could sit down and agree to disagree. And then it seems like for each generation,
decorum.
Yeah, and I think part of it is, I hate to say this, an old Pandora's box for Chris, but I think social media added to it, because now people really care because we disagree, and now we on social media, and it seems like you got the best. I got to put my flag in the ground. I can't compromise, so that made it worse, because back in the day you just had a conversation. Now conversations, you get a million viewers,
or just the violence is is trending upwards, like because with all this energy and rage, like it's been kind of increasingly been getting more politically violent. I think it's just thinking about like I was talking about this the other day, like with you and with Angela, just how like if you really take the time, and then I can imagine for yourself, if you can really sit here and think about what you've seen in your lifetime, like what from
compared to what these kids see.
I mean, but no, you've seen a lot.
But they be telling me stuff, man. Like,
I know.
Oh, I thought you meant from a trauma point of view. Right?
Yeah, but like just, I mean, not even, bro. That too. They gonna be at a whole different level. I'm just saying from a life standpoint of like, man, you've seen the creation of the internet, cars and different things evolve. Like, I mean, I've seen that too. But I just feel like that's also something that has kind of made us different in a way, like what we've grown up with and what we've seen change, and like what these younger kids are growing up with things that we don't have the experience of growing up with. You know what I mean?
They all master Fortnite now.
Right, yeah, but we don't have that experience of growing up like, oh, what is it like to have 1,000 games that this like at the snap of a finger that you can play on your phone or you can play anywhere on the go. And I think like I don't think sometimes that we as adults even take the time to think about that, like how like we were raised a certain way, our lives were different, like we was outside, we was doing all these different things because we didn't have a lot of this stuff that was there. So it's like, I don't know, I think sometimes we got to do a better job of like
I do think about it,
connect in a way.
I do think about it, and I'm working with staff now to get staff to see past the kid and realize the issues we deal with, not the kid. I do, and I'm trying to think of ways to kind of like offset, like, and not like I do Legos with a lot of kids. A lot of boys that put the issues, they like putting stuff together. So we do Legos, we'll sit there and talk sensory stuff. They like building stuff. So I'm looking things of that nature. But the thing to your point, and some of what you said is absolutely correct. That's the new babysitting tool.
Yeah.
You put them in front of the tablet, you put them in front of the TV. I can do what I want to do. Or they sitting there with the adult watching some X-rated crap. We talking about this. I never thought I'd be in my life be talking about this. We dealing with a bunch of middle school kids, man, who inappropriately touch each other. Boy, girl, it's different now, man. And yeah, it's crazy, this stuff. Climbing under the stall to see. It is nuts, some of the stuff. And this is middle school. This is K-5 programs. And they seen it at home. This is what they're being exposed to.
Wow.
I'm just telling you. And And then I had somebody tell me, which I'm glad they don't work for us anymore, Caucasian lady, well, kids got the right to explore. You must have your kind. Not on my watch.
What are we talking about?
But I'm talking about K to 5. I'm not talking about high schools. I'm talking about K to 5.
Kids got the right to explore. Where do we draw the line?
They're talking about sex now, and you got K to 5 talking about sex, man. They sexting each other. It's just different, man, and a lot of it is what they exposed to at home.
But see, what? I think that's the thing. We don't let kids be kids. We really don't let kids be kids. See, adults sometimes can't wait to have a kid just to be like their little friend, their little homie, their little dress up thing. Like, I just want to take them out. Like, yo, we got the kid. We got the outfit.
I was waiting to see that first.
I will never forget when I was in Chestnut Hill and I was at Starbucks. I was sitting outside. I seen this couple. They look so fly. I'm not gonna lie. They had like little denim set. Walked down the street, they shades on. I was like, okay, black love. Walk by, I look at them. He had a baby on his back. The baby was an accessory. The baby was like a backpack. Like they just want to look cool. You could be a dad.
What you're not supposed to do, you look baby.
Be a dad. Yeah, like put that baby on the front.
But be a dad, okay.
Hold on with your chest.
But this is also a generation. Nobody's teaching these kids how to do that. Because you gotta do a lot of father.
That baby throw up on your shirt.
And I deal with men who don't know how to be a dad because they never were fathered, and because they, like you said, they think dad is being cool. They think that's what it's about. There's they think it's about the man on man stuff. You got to teach your kid how to fight. You got to be good in sports.
When I'm a dad, I'm gonna dress like that. I'm gonna be a cool dad. I don't.
So I think there was a clip, and it was sad. It was sad. There's a little kid playing football, right? And he was really good, but he didn't want to play anymore.
Wow.
He just didn't like football. He was like, yeah, I want to do something else. And his pop was laying into him, man, because that's his pop's dream. You will make us some money.
You about to get a full ride from Simpson, and you want a double dutch.
No, it wasn't about that. It wasn't about it. He just said, I'm tired. I don't love it. He said, I don't love it anymore. I don't love it anymore. I want to do something else. And he didn't say that, but something else could be gymnastics, it could be baseball, basketball.
I'd have been cool with doing something else.
Well, he just said, and he wasn't part of a team. He just saying, okay. And there's kids who may not be good in sports, but like we talked about it because there's guys who just came and watched. They would come because they weren't good. They would come down the games and they would watch. But I mean, even when we played outside, there were guys in the school who just come watch, and that's who they were. Or guys maybe play football but didn't play basketball. And they did, and they were masculine guys. We had some guys who were just smart. They were just really smart, So you gotta find your niche. But I think the emphasis on now, without going down a rabbit hole, is this changing generation is the definition of manhood. 10 years ago, it wasn't no toxic manhood and all that crazy stuff. Yeah,
it's an attack on.
Yeah, it's just different, man. And now, men, you got the women in this moment, they don't want a sensitive man. 10 years ago, that was a big thing. My man not sensitive enough. But now it's like, we don't want a sensitive man. So, I think things
change. That whole, I don't even understand.
Yeah.
Well, I don't either.
What is going on out there anymore? Like, because nobody knows what they want. I will tell you that right now. Like,
no, what they think. But you know why they think they know what they want? Because they were raised a certain way, what they were exposed to. They never stopped to think it's an individual thing. Just because this is what was good for my cousin or aunts, my needs are different. And if you're not in generation to generation, you said there's not a whole lot of conversations with kids and parents. It's not. It's not a whole lot of conversations about life. There's not a whole lot of conversations about about making good choices. You got parents who hold their kids accountable. Kids do something crazy in school, and the parent goes because of the teacher.
Right.
I don't care what the teacher did. I wish I would have said something to an adult. Mom, man, I would have got killed. My dad and mom made a bunch of clips. That's their bad. It's not my bad. I better not disrespect the adult. Now, kid be cussing the parent out. Parents go up there. Cuss the kid. Parents go up there, cuss it out. One day, the boy was doing something, and his mom said, "Wait till we get home." This ain't do nothing to me. He said in front of everybody. So why are you saying that? And I'm looking at him, and I'm saying to myself, like, man, I would have been knocked out on the concrete in the schoolyard in front of everybody.
That's so wild.
And she just said, "Come on, boy," and they both started walking away. But that's what he told her.
Oh man, yeah. I saw
Extraction.
I forgot the quarterback, but it was like a black quarterback. He played in the league a little bit, and his family's on there. The whole premise of the show is that one person is in the woods from your family, and the two people would it would be like us. Like two of us would be like you probably throw me in the woods, I would say, and y'all would be back at the hut, just kind of guiding, giving me ways to go and sending things into the woods that I may need. His family sent the stuff in there, and he just complaining the whole time. His fishing line in there, he like, who would wrap this like this? Like just snapping, being arrogant, to the point where he's like, hit the button. He's like, get me out of here.
I didn't see the whole thing, but I saw that part. He was like, you better get me out of here right now.
Get me
and they was talking to the mom and dad.
Guess what? Sorry.
I'm plugging that button. You will find your way back now.
But that speaks to I do think there is
I see it.
A little bit of like an arrogance in this thing. And that's not just him, that's the culture.
Again,
my way or the highway. Everybody thinks I deserve
when I was growing up, that was correct. That was correct. Now, to your point, you got people arrogant in a sense of entitlement, and they don't have anything. They bring nothing to the table. They bring nothing to the table.
But I think it's like it's at an all-time high.
Oh, I agree.
The amount of people who have this sense of entitlement.
Let me tell you, I couldn't be seen.
Anybody with a TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook account is like, oh my God.
I couldn't be seen with that. I listen to some people work for me, man. I'll be seeing stuff. I'm like, yo, man, I couldn't be. And I look at some of these moms, the way they come up to the school, the way they come to the dress. I'm like, come on, really? And I'm thinking the little boy got to be totally embarrassed. Mom calling little boy, he called using offensive words about his sexuality, calling him, this and that, in front of everybody.
Okay,
in front of everybody. In front of everybody, calling him hey, in front of everybody. And it's like, why? Well, why do you do that? And I think, that you see that more and more frequently. You just undress these boys right in front of everybody, man. And so I think generations have changed in that sense too, because even when my mom and dad corrected us, there was a level of respect. They never demoralized us, never, what's wrong to you, stupid, that stuff. I never had those things. You dumb, you idiot, I never had those things. But now it's common practice, man. Now they call everybody little MFer. That's the popular phrase. Come on, you little MFer. Like what?
But again, it's like the idea, like this is my little friend, my little pet.
But generations, man. Like I don't like when I hear people say that's my seed. That drives me crazy, man. That's my pet peeve. But people say it.
My seed.
They're talking about their kids. That's how they introduce their kids. And I'm thinking to myself, like that's the most disgusting thing. Then your son standing right there, and that's how you introduce them. I'm thinking, man, seedling. I'm like, yo, that you really
from the tree of life.
He gonna have no self-esteem the rest of his life. You said yo, my seed. So and I'm thinking to myself, like, yo, you hearing that when you 5, 6 years old. Then you get old enough to actually understand what that means. They're like, man, that's how you saw me.
I think it's just the same. I don't think you really hate.
No, but what you say matters.
One of the guys.
But what you say matters, though. And I can't have this, I can't say it enough. I'm constantly telling people what you say matters. Yeah, and because I don't know how you're going to comprehend it. I don't know how you're going to understand it, and that matters. And you get a lot of adults now who got low self-esteem because things were said to them when they were young, and maybe they took it wrong, but they took it.
True.
They comprehended it wrong, man. And so
I think some things are like that. Yes.
Yeah, you gotta be careful, man.
That, but
you call them dumb and stupid. You call
them that one is insane because then now it's like, oh, I'm dumb and stupid. Just making me think about the kid that you told that story about how smart he is, but then like automatically I'm not smart because I could have somebody probably told him like you're not smart, you're dumb. Why are you doing that? You're a nerd.
That and the thing I still hear, which I'm still amazed at, is you acting white. I thought that was dead and gone. I still hear so sad. Yeah, I hear kids say. I thought it was dead and gone too, man. But I hear kids say that. You acting white, man. That's all white folk. Yeah.
Ain't going nowhere. That's always going to be there to hold us back.
And I'm thinking about that's crazy. Because I asked somebody today. I said, well, let me ask you a question. Why is it that positive things are acting white? They're not acting black. I don't understand. I don't. Help me understand. And I thought too, well, Devin did too. I thought it was going. I didn't think I would hear that thing. Nah, we would still say that. Let alone elementary school kids.
Especially as long as we continue to glorify the dumb stuff and like nonsense, that will continue to linger and be.
Sometimes we have to brighten.
Like if we kind of like put people on a pedestal who act a certain way, like who act like idiots. Like, oh, we following that guy. versus like putting up the guy who is like just he speaks well, he is thought provoking, you know, like a critical thinker.
But I think this also goes back to what we talk about all the time. There's some people so entrenched in the media, and the media make stuff up. They don't care.
They make
stuff up. Yeah, they don't even care, man. But there's people who believe it. There's people who sit back and believe it. I was watching something on TV. I was watching something on TV. I didn't watch it all because I was working. And they were talking about, and this guy was a comedian, was like, "Yo, we're gonna kill this LeBron James right now." You know, everybody said negative stuff about him. We're gonna kill this right now. He said, and he made it clear, this is not a goat argument. I'm not saying he's better than Michael Jordan, but we're gonna talk about some things that people just ignore. You know, so you ask somebody, what do you like least about LeBron James? He's selfish. Okay, tell me what he does is selfish. He's just selfish. But still got to tell me, what does he do that's selfish? You know, he's selfish, man. He just cares about himself. He starts telling the community, starts telling how he built the school and stuff like that. And he said, you know, it's funny because early in his career, they were criticizing him because he was passing the ball. But this dude gets hurt, he was selfish, he ran it. You know, and it's like you hear this stuff, they just because the media says it and it becomes the truth and their reality.
It is human nature for some people to hate.
Oh, yeah.
I think it is just
I
natural.
agree, but the point is you hate because of what somebody else said. I do agree with you. I do agree.
Because I'm not gonna lie, I kind of maybe did this with LeBron coming out a little bit. It's like that idea of like, why is everybody saying this guy's a king? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? It's like when everybody's saying something about it. Me personally, sometimes my antennas go up.
But the comedian talked about that too. He didn't call himself a king. Somebody gave him that name.
I know.
So everybody picking. I know. You know, but some people don't. You know, but some people don't. They think he was calling himself the king. It's not like Muhammad Ali. I'm the great. He wasn't like Muhammad Ali.
This man king.
I'm just saying. So
he is
because he came up in a time where
human nature.
He came up on the tail end of nicknames. People had these nicknames, and he came on the tail end of it, man. And it was a great marketing thing. I agree. It was a great marketing thing. Might as well went with that, but it made them stand out. Now, I do agree with you. I do think that was probably whoever gave him the name didn't understand the pressure was going to come with it. Mm-hmm. You know, and that was going to be going on this long, like decades later. You know, but there's some people who don't have an argument, but professional athletes will talk about LeBron James and they'll talk about the other stuff. But people who don't understand the game, they repeat what they hear.
Yeah.
And they repeat it like it's facts. And they pass judgment. They don't like them or they think this. You know, and so you listen to these arguments, and it's not just about him. It's when somebody was talking about Kobe Bryant, and they were talking about what a great player he was. You know, and what some black people bring up, the fair. What they got to do with they talking? Nothing to do with the clear blues guy. But
I mean, that's all the time.
Yeah, but that's my point. Like,
I think sometimes like Anglo-Saxons try to do the same thing.
Yeah,
they do.
They do.
They do it all the time.
They do. They do.
Anytime that is a brother just
I saw it.
Something.
I saw it.
Doing great.
Yesterday. One day was George Floyd's birthday and Charlie Kirk's birthday. So they were saying how they were born like 10 years apart, but it was the same exact day. So they were talking about how, you know, you want to do this with Charlie Kirk, but you don't want to do this with George Floyd. And what somebody put up, all the stuff he did, all the stuff he did wrong, they researched and put up, and it was a black person. So I'm saying, you know, it's like even with each generation, it seems like we're more willing to tear each other down. We're more willing to just insult people, or repeat what people say, and there's no fact. It's not facts. We just repeat it.
And why is that? That's crazy.
I don't know.
I don't know,
but we
do all people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's like you doing the other person's job for me.
That's an all-time high.
I mean, you do my Stephen A. Smith movie. He does it.
That's an all-time high.
Because
still trying to get on the show.
Some people get selfish and they get a sell, so they say stuff. They don't care about talking about Obama. I talk about Kamala, because you know what? It's going to get people to watch my show. It's going to help me sell a book. It's going to help me do this. So they do it.
His opinions.
So they do it.
That's how you feel.
Yeah, there's some, but there's some things that you're in a position you don't say out loud. It comes with the territory. I was somewhere and we were talking about the same thing. I was sitting there and we were talking about race, and somebody stands up next to me and says, you know, well, yeah, we were talking about it. I was talking about if I brought Charlie Kirk in, and some of the guys, you know, said they would leave. You know, they brought him to speak. And I'm one of those guys. I ain't standing here that. But then somebody else stood up and said, yeah, well, I would have him as a panel to discuss on the panel, but I wouldn't bring him to the speaker. Why do I want to hear somebody on the panel call me a bunch of names and tell me I'm not as smart as he is? I don't understand. I don't understand. So I say that because you don't know, man. People say stuff sometimes, and when you're on a certain platform, Like if I was in the public eye, there's certain things I knew I couldn't say.
Yeah.
I knew there's certain things that I think that I'm not going to say out loud. So I think there's a certain responsibility comes with it. And I think that's changed generation and generations. Now people say whatever. Like you said, you see a headline, clickbait, and you look at it, and then you click on it, nothing to do with the headline.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I do it. You know, I make a video.
I stop, man.
Just
Because I used to look for the sports stuff. So and then I was like,
you're competing and fighting. Everybody's fighting for attention. Honestly, you're fighting for somebody's attention.
I agree, but do you compromise? You know, I guess you do. You compromise your ethics.
People
and
do.
your sense of truth.
It's
Yeah, they do.
People try to make a gray area.
And I think,
but see, that's my point. You 100% right. 100%
we
right.
reached a point where people are always going to be just trying to push and see like what I can do next.
Yeah,
what's the next best thing? What's the next funniest thing? What's the next thing I get the most views with? Like, how can I?
But the truth should be the truth.
I
I agree with everything you said.
Yeah,
and I think
there's
a problem when you let media go unchecked.
But money,
and right now it's going unchecked.
Money has corrupted the media. Like it
comes
comes back to that point again, like how capitalism.
But it always impacts the poorest people the most. I can see a logical reason behind it. I don't know if they're looking at more TV, more social media, but it impacts the poorest people. It has a huge impact on poor people, on poverty every time, because we're the ones that typically embrace those negative ideas. We're the ones who do, you know, whether it's your pants hanging down, whether it's grabbing yourself, you know, whether it's calling each other the N-word. We embrace that stuff.
Farmers, they out there complaining, they hear it now.
But not like that. It's starting to catch up to them. But you know, for a long time, we monopolized that, man. Negativity stuff, we were doing it. We were into it, man.
I'm just saying, it's about to get dark for everybody.
I'm saying, you like somebody, man. Somebody I grew up with, and we were talking, and I'm like, he's like bad luck Chef Rock, man. Everything he was like, you know, come on, man. Enjoy life, man. Ain't that bad.
I'm
you say it all the time. It's about to get dark out.
I'm enjoying life, but I'm also just kind of, I'm not cautious. Yeah, I'm not silly to what's going on out here. Like, I just kind of see how things are moving, and things seem to be moving in one direction. There's nothing that seems like to be stopping the snowball from picking up speed.
Like here, National Guard going in American cities.
Like, look, crazy. At what point do we see anybody like the resistance, like that's slowing us down? Like, where are? I wish it was a Democrat just like raising hell right now. Like just somebody just talking every day. Like just like about what's going on, what we need to be focused about. There's just not enough going on.
You will be surprised I'm about to say. I agree with you. I think without taking the politics,
Schumer back out
we
there.
talk about generations to generations. We talk about generation to generation. So
we had fiery politicians.
But also think not even that. You had like now they say separation of church and state, but you had churches with mobilized people.
Crazy.
They would mobilize people. And if you look at the original definition of church and state, it's not what people think it is. Church and state, separation of church and state, if you go back and research it, it was to keep government out of the church, not keep the church out of government. It was meant so the government wouldn't control the church, which is what they try to do now anyway. So people say that, but this country was, not founded on it, but your forefathers were religious people. So anyway, I think part of the issue we have is though, like you said, there's no unity, there's no accountability. There's nobody pressuring politicians to speak up for them. We vote them right back in next year. 4 years from now, we put them right back in office, do the same thing. They're not saying, well, you didn't say anything for 4 years, so why I'm putting you back in? No, we do it. We complain in the barbershop, we complain in all these places, but we don't hold them accountable. And I think that's the difference because the older generation, they will vote, they will show up and vote, and that's how they control it. Okay, you ain't winning, Fred Parker. We took you. We're gonna vote you out. Now, people, when they get frustrated with the system now, they don't vote at all. They just choose not to vote. I'm not participating. I'm not wasting my vote. It don't matter anyway. So it's different. Generations ago, people died to vote. And they respect that. Or a lot of people did vote for the greater good. Now I'm voting for my personal benefit.
Yeah, we're going to see a streamer get elected in our lifetime.
Consonant is going to run for president.
He's going to get it.
Marathon 3. Marathon 4.
Mafia 9. Mafia 5. Mark for president.
What's wrong with y'all, man?
You
think? I guarantee you,
there's show speed, vice president.
A good amount of kids that will vote for him.
Man,
I am not saying it's not. I just said y'all crazy. Well, I think, but to your point,
you heard here first.
W campaign.
Clip this up.
But to your point,
W's in the chat.
But also,
GG's.
they will vote for the wrong reason. I mean,
I know.
I know what I'm saying.
Donald
That's what's crazy about. Well, Donald, you can say what you want to say. He figured out a message that people will like. He knew, and I say this all the time. And I used to say this person get mad when I say it. That whole abortion in the Supreme Court, you know what that was? That was his test case to see if he could swing in the Supreme Court. That's what it was. But he knew he needed a large record group of people, so he got prison for it. Now he knows it. That's why he's doing what he's doing now, because the court is on his side. They get rid of books. Anything that do Black history, they take it out. And I'm watching these idiots on TV talking about how, it's Black history is negative. It's a negative side of the country. And then I was laughing because the comedians are funny, but they tell the truth. They were making fun of Donald Trump. How Donald Trump was talking about all inventions. And every invention name was invented by a Black person. Well, he's up there talking about how great America is, and every invention name was invented by a Black person.
He is a truth teller.
Yeah. So it was funny, but he was right. Every time he did it, he put up the Black person. But it was funny, but because he don't know history. But he's sitting there talking to whatever is Black history. So I think there's a lot of crap going on.
I don't know history.
I agree.
They don't care.
I guarantee you they don't know how many the legislative branch, the branches of government.
They don't. Yeah,
I guarantee they don't know.
They don't care for that at all.
Well, that's people never heard the preamble. They don't. Well, they don't know the difference between the Constitution and they don't. They don't know what bylaws are. But anyway, another great episode of Brother Evans Black Men. We got George here, Chris Spencer Sr.,
Chris Jr.,
Devin Pender. Like, follow, subscribe, share.
Appreciate y'all. Make sure you stay tapped in. Join us next week. Give us some more ideas, topics, things to discuss. Again, we appreciate the love and the interaction.
Support. We can see it.
Is there... Peace out, everybody. Good night.
I figure out why we can't go